Hello, designers, and welcome back to part three of a four-part series on layout and typesetting in InDesign. Part three is going to start our typesetting process, and yes, it's a process by getting some styles set in our content that we roughly laid out in part three. Remember, two absolute rules. Number one and number two, good typesetting requires visual contrast for hierarchy so that we lead the viewer through the importance of the information in our layouts, and also smooth what I call texture. Technically, the type term is color, but I find that can be a little confusing. We have enough stuff to keep track of when it comes to color, but text that is typeset has a texture. If you zoom out, back off from it, and squint your eyes a little bit, you'll see that type has a texture to it. If you're looking at that texture and it has big holes or spaces or gaps, or the edge looks funny, that means something is off in your typesetting and you need to adjust for that. We're looking for a nice, smooth, organic texture all the way around. Okay, where we left off, I have all my content roughed in here. I have not touched typesetting at all yet. I do believe, in the interest of showing you both character styles and paragraph styles, I'm going to go ahead and set my title and subtitle as character styles, and then I'm going to set my body and caption as paragraph styles. When it comes to hierarchy in your layouts, generally four settings will do it. Occasionally, you need a fifth for something, arguably, and when I get there, I might set a fifth for the subtitles within my body copy, but generally four will get you there, and that would be a large title, a subtitle, a setting for your body copy, and then a caption setting, which you could also use for something like pull quotes, which I believe is what I'm going to do here. So I have my title selected, and I used Helvetica Neue for my page numbers, so that is the typeface that I'm going to stick with. It is acceptable to use two typefaces, no more than two, in your layouts. The little more traditional approach to that would be to use a sans serif for large type and a serif for smaller type. Generally, we use serif typefaces, the ones with the little feet at the bottom on the baseline, like what you're looking at here with Minion is a serif typeface. We use that for smaller copy because the letter forms have more visual information, and that makes it easier to read. All right. Generally, I'm a fan of condensed type, but I think for our purposes here, I'm going to go ahead and stay in the regular weight. And I'm going to go pretty traditional for this, even though that really isn't always my call. Again, type, once you learn the basics and the rules, your final answers will come down to style and your own personal preference. So I'm going to go ahead and go heavy and large for my title. And I want to get out in here in this last column, pushing up next to this gutter that I'm gonna absolutely stay out of to keep everything evenly spaced. So I'm gonna go pretty far into here, and that looks good. I'm just going by sight, although my big titles will never be more than one line. I'm gonna go ahead and take my line spacing off the auto setting. You know it's in the auto setting because there are parentheses around that point value there. And then always set your kerning to optical. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and auto size my text box. That's a habit that I'm in. It makes things play nice with the align tools. All right, my subtitles here. I'm just selecting the box because I'm setting a character style. If I wanted to character style these independently, I would need to highlight the lines. Okay. And I didn't set a style for this. I set it visually. I'm going to use a character style for this. You'll notice I'm working through the properties panel. Earlier this year, I believe it was towards the end of winter quarter for us. There was an update to Adobe InDesign that now the properties panel, not only is it context sensitive like it always has been, but now it's actually populated useful, very useful, and I find that it saves me quite a few clicks. So even though I still have my traditional normal set of panels sitting here off to the left, I've been trying to get myself to consistently work entirely through the properties panel, and you'll see in part four when we get down to fine tuning and adjusting rags, working through the properties panel when you're doing that is really helpful and really super fast. Once you get used to it, it's really, really super easy. I could be working through the character styles panel to do this. It's the exact same moves and the same buttons and icons, but right here under text style, if I highlight the character styles and click on new, it'll highlight me a new style name. This obviously is my title. Since it's already set, um, it's just that easy for me to do it right there. And then I'm going to move on to my second box for my subtitles. This one I'm actually going to do through the panel for a very specific reason. I'm actually going to set the type while I'm studying the style itself. So I'm going to click on new for a new style. I'm going to double click on that so I get the character style options. uh, this is going to be my subtitle setting. Now I'm going to go into my basic character formats. I want to get back to Helvetica Neue, and for my subtitle, let's go down to medium italic so that I have some nice contrast going on. My title was set right around 30. So I want to make sure, based on contrast, that I have enough difference in size for one. I already have a weight difference, plus it's italic. I also want the size to be noticeably different. So I'm going to go down. I'm also looking at this line length here, and I like where that is sitting right now. For line spacing, and notice this works because I have my preview button on so that I can live typeset while I'm in here. I know that 23, more than likely, your line spacing is 2 points above your point size. I'm going to change my kerning to optical so that I can see that line spacing value pop into my actual box. And what I'm looking at is a descender right here by this G, a descender pointing at either a capital or an ascender. That's a comfortable amount of space right there. So that 2325 is good for me. Always kerning on optical, no tracking, no reason to. Case position, I can leave alone. I do always, in my styles, want to activate ligatures. Ligatures are special characters that make special connections between letters. Some of the ones that you might be familiar with would be FF, FI. If you look at those characters next to each other and there is a ligature in that typeface, you will notice it's a little different. For example, FF connects the crossbars as one solid bar instead of two separate bars. I do like to, even in character styles, pop into my character color and just visually put no on the stroke and change this into black. Maybe here Maybe here, if it reads and it doesn't have enough contrast against white. I could look at using some color on these. I believe instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is tint my black and take the edge off. That's not far enough to be visually different, so I'm going to go down a little farther. I'm going to hit OK, and now we're starting to get onto something here. Here's a trick I do quite often. I want this amount of gutter space between my title and subtitle here, so I'm going to move my title down to sit on the top of that gutter, and then I'm going to grab both of those boxes and take them back up to my top margin, and now I have that spaced nicely, and I'm ready to start working on the remainder of my text. Let's go ahead and do these quotes, which I'm going to set as a paragraph style, and um, we also have an additional move to make on this since we have punctuation at the edge of our text box, and I'm going to call this caption. Since we have punctuation at the sides or edges of our box, we also need to hang our punctuation here also. So I'm going to move this out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. This is my caption. I'm going to go back to my basic character formats, go up to Helvetica Neue. I'm going to go ahead and, since I want this to be a little larger and very noticeably different, let's go uh, regular 56 italic. I have enough room, but I'm concerned about my line length. Now, right here, right away, because I'm dealing with a shorter line length, I probably am going to want to go down in point size and not have this too large. But I do have options because I do visually sort of want this area mostly filled. So first thing I'm going to do, and whenever you're setting multiple line text, turn off the hyphenation right off the bat. All right, and then this size in here, what I'm looking at to dial the size in, I want a reasonable rag because I'm going to leave this flush left, rag right, the way that it is right now for alignment. I want a rag that looks reasonable. So at 10, this looks pretty good in here. Now I'm just gonna pop down to my color and let's see what it looks like if, no, I'm going to leave this full on black. Registration black in InDesign, if you're unfamiliar, acts kind of like a rich black. Since I didn't actually pull a color palette in here with me, I'm going to utilize that. All right, let's zoom in here and get this set the way that we actually want. So I am also going to go ahead and put a line break here with my attribution for my quote. And although I'm not going to set an additional character style for this, I do want to take this down a weight and make it not italic. So now I have my text box. This looks pretty good, but I need some space to the edge. So what I'm going to do is take a click each way, which is technically an eighth of an inch. Actually, a click each way for each side. And then I'm going to go ahead and let's align this to the actual subtitle. And then I want to auto size that up. And my last move is to hang my punctuation and see if there is something to be done about this widow down at the very bottom. To hang your punctuation, you might not have this panel open or available. I don't believe it actually populates in the properties panel, although it would be extremely helpful if it did. Under type in tables, story, and when I click on this, it's going to pop mine open. And what you're looking for, and you have to do this by text box, by text frame, you're looking for optical margin alignment. This is how we hang our punctuation. And the starting point for that is the same setting as your point size of your text. So I have this caption setting at 10 point. I'm going to start at 10 point and then take a look over here visually because those quote marks are a little wider than your average period, say when you're setting justified text and you need to hang your punctuation. I probably wouldn't have to up this size, but you can visually go up a few extra points, and that accomplishes what we call hanging the punctuation so that the punctuation actually goes outside of the nice uh, clean line that we have going on here. Now, I was not able to remove this widow here. That is something that would absolutely drive me insane. So, um, normally this would be a proposal that was of my own design, and also I would have written my own content. So what I'm going to do is just cheat in here and add a word. And that drops, let me get out of, so you can see the text. So I added the word very, put a space in, and that kicks this line very, very over and puts me on. That alleviates my widow at the end by adding an extra word down there. I am not going to adjust rags. I would consider that fine tuning, and that is part 4. What I do want to do is get the body setting in here very quickly, and then I will finish through and we'll do fine tuning in part 4. So back to my paragraph styles panel. I'm going to add a new style. This is going to be my body into my basic character formats. Back to Helvetica Neue. I'm going to set my body at 45 light. I think that's plenty heavy for body copy. Body copy should be 10 to 11 points, no more. Knowing that my caption set so nicely at 10, I'm going to imagine that 10 is probably the right call. If I feel like that's a little too small, and I'm going to do some checking here in a minute, uh, I can up that a partial amount of a point. What I'm kind of looking at is these first couple breaks. It'd actually be helpful if I had just set this whole box all together, but I'm going to assume that this is a good starting point. That 2 points above your body size for line spacing is a good rule. 13 might be a little open as far as in between the lines. It's definitely enough for sure. Since I'm going to have some fairly dense columns of text here, I'm okay if it's a little more open, although I generally set a little tighter. My ligatures are on. I am not going to utilize indents, but I do want a space after. And for me, one click is enough. You'll notice if you look at the text over here in my box, when I click that space after, maybe I want more, maybe I want a full eighth of an inch. That added the space before this extra hard paragraph return. I need to finish cleaning this up and take those out because I want paragraph at the end of a paragraph and then start a new paragraph. The extra line of space is put in there using this space after. I want to make sure my hyphenation is off, and that helped with my rag already, which tells me my point size is probably darn close. I'm going to go into the character color, make sure that's set correctly. I certainly am going to use a flat black and take the edge off my body copy by tinting it down a little. Just makes it a little easier to read. And then you can see if I come down here, remove this extra paragraph space. Remember, paragraph styles work between paragraph breaks. So I come down into my next paragraph and I hit not caption, body, and then remove this break, move down into the next paragraph, hit body. I am good to go. The shortcut there would be to select the whole frame, and I can grab both of these and hit body and then continue through cleaning. I am also going to make another setting for these subtitles in here. I am going to do that and save, and I will see you back for fine tuning in part 4.